Hello, once again, race fans. Welcome back to another episode of the NASCAR Show on the Grueling Truth, now in the playoffs. I'm Alex Gray. I'm here with Steve Risley. We're going to talk about some news, especially Richmond and what went down there. To me, this was a dominant weekend across the entire board for Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, they really made a stand. Christopher Bell dominating the Xfinity race. He got the win there. In the top 10 there, you had Austin Cindric, Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier, Chase Briscoe, Harrison Burton with a good run, Noah Gragson, Zane Smith, Michael Annett, Tyler Reddick. That's the top 10 how they finished in the Xfinity race. Moving over to the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, Martin Truex Jr., second win in a row. First time in his Cup career that he's actually had back-to-back wins. Kyle Busch was second, Denny Hamlin third. Eric Jones was fourth. And it was going to be for the first time ever that Joe Gibbs Racing finished 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunately, Eric Jones failed post-race inspection, so he got disqualified of all those points that he earned, giving him a 38th place finish, 1 point, and now he's 45 points out of the cut line. He's now in a must-win situation. So that's got to be – it was like a rear toe or something with the axle in what caused Eric Jones' suspension. So, Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
I'll tell you what, that's a tough call to make, but, the guys that are trying to skirt the issue right now in the playoffs, first off, I don't know if the playoffs have started. I think the Martin Truex show has started.
Yeah.
He's dominated both races. I don't know if it's the playoffs, just the Martin Truex show. Can anybody touch him right now? I mean, he's hot.
Yeah.
But, again, this only carries him into the next round. I mean, it starts from scratch again after the Roval this weekend. So he's got to go back to ground zero. Let's hope he can keep it up. God bless him. I mean, he's running great. And JGR's got it dialed in. Like I said, they had the top 4 cars. And then, unfortunately, Eric Jones, from what I understand, it was an alignment issue with the rear axle. Mm-hmm. It was out of tow a little bit, and they felt it created enough of an advantage. So I don't know. I mean, I have a tough time. The way these cars get bounced around on the track, if they pass pre-race inspection, you've got to expect that things are going to happen during the course of a race. Just the stress on the cars, the bumping and grinding, the fender rubbing and everything, it's going to knock stuff out of whack. So my question is to you, Alex, is how do they not catch it pre-race? Because cars have to go to pre-race inspection before they get on the track. So how do they not catch that in pre-race inspection? And then the car goes and runs 400 laps on a short track, which is nothing but stress on the under chassis. Mm-hmm. There's bumping, there's grinding, there's rubbing is racing, there's all the phrases you've ever heard from Days of Thunder, and the car comes back a little out of whack, and then you're going to disqualify him for that. Is that a fair question to ask, or how did they not catch it before the race started? To fix it, or you can't get on the track.
I think the bigger question for me is, how does the car change so much throughout the course of a race if everything had seemed fine beforehand, but after the race, so much has changed, the car's failed inspection?
Well, I mean, the stress load on these cars is phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, the G-forces are pulling on these cars. I mean, metal bends. I mean, things get out of whack. They bump each other, touching the rear tire, touching the rear fender, wax things out, and dropping them off the I don't know. It's a tough call to make, but in the new world, NASCAR's, getting strict now, and they're saying, you and I talked off air a little bit. Our worst fear is we get to Homestead in the winter, finds out that his car is disqualified. Oh, that's a pub PR nightmare for NASCAR right there waiting to happen.
Yeah, that's
if they're going to keep doing it to this level.
Like, what if, driver wins the championship and then the car fails inspection? Like, that's when people will probably go off about these rules. I mean, to be fair, I like the changes just because, like, you win a race and then your car fails inspection. Well, you lose your playoff eligibility, but you still have that win. And after a while, it's just like, just take the win away. So unfortunately, not everything is going to be perfect. It is a possibility. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it did, oh boy, that would be something for NASCAR. You're going to look at that and go, well, and I believe with the newer cars, and who knows what will change when Gen 7 comes out in a couple of years, but the cars got, the more technology that's come into the sport, and the cars are just so detailed, and the cars are so specific in a certain way. It's different than what it was 15 years ago.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I just think that NASCAR is a star-driven sport. The legacy of the sport is Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, Bill Elliott, Terry Labonte. I mean, you can go down the list of Cale Yarborough, Donnie Allison, Bobby Allison. You can go down Fireball Roberts. You can just keep naming names, but the sport is driven on stars. And if you start whacking the stars like that, it's not like the NFL. Like when we talked about this too off there, the NFL is not going to hurt anything by losing Antonio Brown. The NFL is bigger than Antonio Brown. But I think NASCAR is in a situation where I don't know that they're bigger than the stars of their sport because there's such loyalty to a car number. Like I'm a 9-car fan. I mean, I'm a Chase Elliott fan, and I root for Chase every race. I don't really care what anybody else does. If Chase is going to win, bully for anybody. But I'm rooting for the 9-car every time. I'm sure you have your favorite. And it doesn't bother me when somebody else wins. It's just that I just root for the 9-car. That's my car. It was Bill Elliott when I was growing up. I got to meet him a couple times, and the kindest gentleman in the world. And I'm sure his son's the same way. And but it's a star-driven sport. So if you start doing this and nitpicking things like this, when you got to understand the stress load on these cars, they're turning 170, 180 miles an hour on a 3/4-mile track. These cars are going to stress. I mean, stuff's going to break and stuff's going to bend. And I just would say if it passes pre-race inspection and then things happen, how on earth can you blame? You film every pit stop, every pit, so you can look. Did they go in there and unjack the rear axle and change the angle of the rear axle and change it? No, it just if it passed pre-race. So I guess what I'm saying is they need to look. I don't know how they do it. So I've never been to an inspection site where they do it, but I hope that what they're doing is everything they look at pre-race, they look at the very same thing post-race. Mm-hmm. So if they're not checking the axle angle on pre-race, but then come back at post-race and say you're out of whack, shame on NASCAR. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I feel about it. I feel bad for Rick Jones because he's effectively he's gone. Effectively.
Unless he wins.
Huh?
Yeah, he's pretty much done for.
He's going to win. I mean, he's in an absolute must-win situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's his only chance to move on to the next round. Let me go to the NASCAR site here and let's look at the standings. Let's just get to that. So, what do you think of the race itself? I basically thought the race was kind of dull. Not for a Saturday night short track. I was expecting a little more aggressiveness, a little more bumping and rubbing. Everybody's being cautious right now. I don't understand the whole concept of everybody who's not in the chase just moves aside and lets the chase guys go. It's almost like, you just got to say, all right, just put the 16 cars that are in the chase on the track. Let them run it out. Because that's basically what's happening. I mean, the only thing good about the other 34 cars on the track, or 35, 33, whatever many raced this week, is that, they could blow a tire, create a yellow, bunch them up, get them in the pits, get new tires on, because this track was chewing up tires pretty quickly. You could do a fuel run for the entire race, for the entire segment, but you couldn't do a tire run for the entire segment. You had to come in halfway through and get new tires, or you're going to lose tremendously. And all these other cars there now, really, the way they just move out of the way, get out of the groove, It's like, just let the 16 cars go run and have at it. It's it. Your season's over. You're done. And that won't happen because of sponsorship money and things like that. But has there ever been – that's a good question to ask you. Has anybody ever won a race who was in the playoffs who was not a playoff contender?
Like drivers that are out of the playoffs?
Yeah, like, say, Jimmy Johnson. Just say, has there ever been one? I can't recall one. I mean, I'm sure there has been.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there has been at times, especially if, like, a driver got eliminated and won later. That's happened before, too.
Yeah, but, I mean, say somebody did not make the playoffs. Did not make the playoffs, and then they come in like Jimmy Johnson. Let's use him as an example. I mean, and has there ever been a driver like Jimmy Johnson, and he's been in the playoffs every year except this year, so that's a bad example, but he's a known commodity. Has there ever been anybody who has won a race in the playoffs who was not a part of the playoffs?
I'm looking at Racing Reference right now to get a good idea. I'm not 100%.
I'm sure somebody has. There's got to be somebody down the road that has, yeah. So.
Yeah. Who knows? We may get that at the Roval.
Yeah, you may. Yeah, because Roval's an unknown commodity for everybody still. I mean, it's only the second time they've run there. So, looking at the race, you got, like I said, it's the Martin Truex show right now. Kyle Busch looks strong. Hamlin looks strong. JGR looks very strong. I mean, Eric Jones was fourth, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Newman made a great run. I mean, there's a courageous run for Ryan Newman right there. I mean, he put himself in position now, and let's talk about Ryan Newman and the kind of driver he is running for RCR.
Roush.
I'm sorry, Roush, yeah. Yeah, he was RCR before, yeah, now he's Roush, exactly. My bad. But it was a courageous run on his part. He ran full out, intense, kept himself his nose clean, kept himself out of trouble, dueled with everybody, and, you know, at some point had some opportunities to even lead the race or win the race. But anyway, he gets a top 5 finish, and that puts him now in the plus side on the playoffs. So how good a race was that for him?
It was a really good race, especially for a team like Roush Findlay Racing, who really hasn't been the team that they used to be 10 years ago. And I feel like the team's also improved since Newman has joined, and he's made some really good runs in that 6th car. And Richmond, he went off. He really had a good performance there. I was really impressed. He was able to keep that 6th car in really good contention, and now he's in a position where he may be able to advance to the next round.
Yeah, I think he will. I think you know, he's not a bad road course driver. I mean, you know, he's done well finishing high in the road courses as much as I can remember. Kyle Larson had a good run, finishing 6th. That was a good run for him. Harvick, I think Harvick led last, didn't he?
Yeah, Harvick had a pretty strong car. He ended up finishing in 7th place.
7th place.
Jimmy
Boyer
Johnson
picks himself up a little bit.
Jimmy Johnson was the highest finisher of the non-playoff drivers. He finished 10th. How about this? Bubba Wallace in 12th. That 43 team seems to be getting better results lately from what I've noticed.
I'll tell you what I think. I think Bubba Wallace is the best driver in the worst equipment. And I don't think that Petty's equipment is bad. It's just not up to par with SHR, JGR, RCR, Hendrick. You know, they're a notch below those. But Bubba Wallace drives with those guys. I mean, and I think it's the talent that does it. And I would love to see Bubba Wallace in one of those big teams' cars, because I think that young man would be winning races. He would. I think he win a ton of races. I think he win a ton of races. I just think right now, you know, Petty just does not have the funds or the engineering to do it. In my opinion, and again, I'm not in their books, I'm not in their bank account, so I don't know exactly what it is or what they can afford to spend. But I think they have one of the most talented, underrated drivers in the sport right now. who has a big fan base. I mean, I'm a big Bubba Wallace fan. You know, I mean, next to the 9 car, the 43 car is my second favorite car, just because of Bubba. Yeah. You know, I love the way he carries himself. I love the way he talks. I love the way he reacts and races people. He's good for the sport. He's just good for the sport.
He really is.
So I would love to see him. What I would love to see is for Petty to get on board with somebody else, because, you know, you don't want to push the King out and you don't want to move Petty out. But he needs some support from somebody on the team. He needs to form some kind of alliance with Penske or somebody, or I don't know who does it.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I think they have some sort of alliance with RCR. And
do they?
I do want to, yeah. And I will make a quick correction. Daniel Suarez was the highest finisher of the non-playoff drivers. He was 9th.
Okay, he finished 9th, yeah. Jimmy Johnson was 10th, yeah. Yeah, what about Hendrick? Jimmy Johnson finished 10th, Elliott 13th, and then you go all the way down to where you got to go. You get the other two. Bowman was 24th and 23rd and 24th. They're not showing well right now. Are they out of it?
Well, I mean, there's still one race to go. They can dig themselves out of this hole. Something interesting with Bowman, he got into a little run-in at one point with Austin Dillon, and then Dillon kind of retaliated and, you know, dumped him pretty much, and the caution came out. And Alex Bowman said a rather interesting quote. He said, "I'm going to shove that silver spoon of his right up his you-know-what." So Bowman showing that he was not too happy with Austin Dillon after that incident. So
I'll use the same phrase I've always used. Nothing like watching 250-pound multimillionaires with their helmets on bitch slapping each other. That's basically what it is. It's like, take your helmet off, put on some boxing gloves, and get in the ring and fight. You sit there and you get out of the car, you leave your helmet on, you bitch slap each other. You're both, neither one of you weigh more than 150 pounds or are 5 foot 5 inches tall. It's funny. But that's the sport by its own nature. I mean, you know, I used to love watching David Pearson get out of the 21 car with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. He had a cigarette lighter on his dashboard.
Yeah, or the 1979 Daytona 500 with the
the great fight. Yeah. So anyway, anything else about this race? Let's look at the standings. Let's go to the standings and see where we are and how bad things are. Where we go? Here we go. I'm pulling them up. So you got Bowman, Boyer, Busch, and Jones all in the bottom 4 right now. They're outside looking in.
Yep.
Byron's in 16th, he's +2. Bowman's -2. Boyer's -4. Busch is -14. And Jones is -45. Jones is out unless he wins.
Yeah.
I mean, he basically has to win.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he's got to win. I mean, there's no way around it. He's got to score. I don't think he can get enough points. How many points did the winner get? Winner only got 41 points. He's 45 out. So he's done.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win, he's done. I mean, Truex, led most laps, got 41 points. Yeah. Actually, Kyle Busch got 46 points, so Kyle Busch got the most points. So he must have led the most laps. But you've got basically Kyle Larson's +25, Elliott +37, Logano +50. Those guys are all safe into the next round.
Yeah.
Right? Unless they have a disastrous first lap on the road. But other than that, you're down now to Newman, Blaney, Almirola, Byron, and then you've got Bowman and Boyer, who all are going to be battling it out. And then you've got Busch, who's 14 down, which still he's got to have it. He almost needs to win too. Yeah, you've got to realize that these cars above him are all going to be in the top 10 most likely again, because all the other cars are going to lay down and give him room and let him run. They're just going to step aside and say, "You guys go at it. We're out of your hair. We don't want to get yelled at by anybody."
Right.
So I would say your bottom four, looking at it right now, are Jones and Busch are probably done. Boyer can run road courses. He's a good road course driver.
Mm-hmm.
Bowman and Byron I don't know about. Amarola I don't know about. Blaney can run road courses. Newman can run road courses. Larson at plus 14. As long as you didn't screw things up, and then you got Elliott at plus 37. Or Larson plus 25. Then you got Elliott at 37. He's safe. I think 37 and up is pretty much in to the next round to join the Martin Truex show.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what else we got to talk about? Where are we going to now? Here's an interesting thing. And before we get into the Roval. Are we done with Richmond? I thought it was an average race. I thought I would expect it more banging and bumping. But I think people are playing smart, trying to play for points. Maybe that's what the stage racing does. Guys keeping their nose clean. It was a pitch strategy race because you needed to change tires. You didn't need gas. You could run a stage on a full tank of gas, but you couldn't run the tires on a full tank of gas. You'd fall off too much and you'd be so far out of it. I don't know how many cars were on the lead lap at the end of the race. I think Elliott finished 13th, and he was lapped down. I think he only had 12 cars on the lead lap. I think he got passed right at the end of the race, which doesn't matter. It just shows that pit strategy plays a big part of a race like that at Richmond, and that's the aero package. I mean, it's doing its job. It's creating great racing, but they're stabilizing the cars so much. It's like, I don't know. I kind of like them when they were unstable, when they would bang each other a little more.
Yeah.
As long as my car didn't get banged. Is there anything else on Richmond?
I think that about covers it. News did break out this morning. It was pretty much all but announced, but Christopher Bell is indeed moving up to the 95 next season. We all pretty much knew at this point. They did add some other details. Jason Ratcliffe, who was his crew chief in the Xfinity Series, will join him at Levine. Mike Wheeler, the 95 team's current crew chief, will remain and become the competition director. The technical alliance between Levine family and Joe Gibbs and Toyota Racing Development will be enhanced. As part of his statement, Bell said that Rheem, his sponsor, would follow him to the 95 car and join current sponsor Procore.
Okay. Yeah, silly season continues. I mean, it was kind of a quiet week for silly season, but I expect it's going to explode here shortly as we get farther down the road. The interesting thing is, what's Jimmy Johnson going to do? Is he going to come back and run another year, or?
He said on the Dale Jr. download that, he does want to race more. He wants to race for more years if possible. So it'll be interesting.
Well, I think he's capable. I don't understand the fall off of these guys a lot of times. Like Jimmy Johnson's a guy who's obviously one of the 2 or 3 greatest drivers, 3 or 4 greatest drivers ever to race in NASCAR, with 7 championships. And you're running top level equipment, and how do you fall off? I mean, do you lose your competitive spirit, Alex, or you just get more cautious as you go on and take less risks, or what happens to these guys like a Jimmy Johnson, who 3 years ago was untouchable? I mean, he was winning everything he wanted to win, and now all of a sudden he hadn't had a win in 2 years. What happens to these guys?
Sometimes it just comes with age. What's nice about NASCAR is some of these guys can race into their 50s, 60s, heck, even 70s when you look at guys like Morgan Shepherd. But sometimes
power steering.
Yeah, sometimes,
and disc brakes.
And people don't understand, because people always tell me, like, they just go in circles. No, the way these guys drive these cars, after a while, it gets hard on you. You have to stay physically and mentally fit to drive these stock cars. I mean, it's always been that way. You just got to be mentally and physically fit, you know. And Jimmy Johnson, of course, he's both of that easily. I think some of it does have to come with age. He is getting older. You know, he has said that he wants to race a bit more. You know, some of these guys, too, they've retired younger and younger because, and
yeah.
I see.
Well, Gordon. Gordon's a great example.
Yeah, I'm talking about even with David Reagan and Paul Menard. You know, these two were pretty much shocking retirements, but they both kind of said the same thing.
Okay, but I think those guys. I think those guys were retired.
Yeah, those guys. They just wanted to spend more time with their family.
That's the story, and they're sticking to it. I think if they had an opportunity to get a full-time sponsor and run, both of those guys. And Menard, you know, he's got his dad's company, so Paul Menard may be the exception to that rule because he's got more money than God. His family does. I mean, there was no problem for him. And his dad, John Menard, is so involved in auto racing with the IndyCar circuit and with NASCAR sponsoring. He sponsors Blaney's car. Didn't he sponsor Blaney's car?
Yeah, they sponsor Blaney too.
Yeah, and so, but guys like David Reagan, I think that's a situation where, like, dude, if you don't have the money, we can't put you in a car. I think that's the truth of that story right there. And you know, he does a great job on air on I don't know if it's NASCAR America or Fox NASCAR. I watch both of them daily, trying to get a hold of what they're doing. So I don't know that that's really their decision to make that call. But anyway, yeah, I see your point. Okay, then we're done. Richmond, like I said, it's right now it's the Martin Truex show. He's got a hot car. He's got, you know, Cole Pern's doing a great job for him. And they're on fire.
They really are.
Is flaming too fast. I mean, you know, I remember last year Elliott won 2 races early in the season, in the playoffs, and then fizzled. You know, I think he picked up 2 wins in the playoffs. I think it was last year, didn't he? I believe so. I have to look that up, but I think he had 2 quick wins, and then he just kind of fizzled. And so let's see what happens here. I mean, still think Kyle Busch is the man to beat.
Certainly. He and Hamlin.
Yeah. He and Hamlin, yeah. Hamlin's due. And it wouldn't bother me to see Hamlin win it. I mean, this guy has paid his dues and deserves it. You know.
Yeah, he's a guy that basically has won almost everything, and
except the championship,
So
yeah, and he's been consistent. He's always run up front. He's got great equipment. So we'll see what goes on. Bottom 4. Who do you think gets whacked after this weekend? Who do you think does and doesn't make it? Let's end up Richmond with that before we head into the Roval. Jones is out. I don't think Jones can make it.
Yeah, Jones is
unless he wins. He has to win.
Yeah.
That's his only chance.
I'm going to say
Kurt Busch. What do you think? You think Kurt Busch can hang on? I don't.
It's really hard to say. He's 14 points out. He's going to have like a dominating race. He's going to have to come out and just like lead a lot of laps and win this thing if he wants to keep himself safe.
I think he's almost in a must-win situation too.
Yeah, it really does feel like that. I'm going to say Jones and Kurt Busch are out. I'm going to say Boyer
is in.
What's that?
I think Boyer makes it.
Okay.
Well, this is my. I mean, just my opinion. I mean, state your own opinion.
Well, yeah. Of course, one guy to look out for in this race is Ryan Blaney for the Roval because he won it last year. Well, more so he won it because Truex and Johnson took each other out. Winning that race, which that was just wow. What a way to do the first Roval race like that. Yeah, perhaps Bowman and Byron could be fighting to see who advances here. Amarola is not safe. It's tough. I mean, but I think Jones, Kurt Busch, Boyer, and I'm going to say Bowman. I think those are the 4 that get eliminated after
Busch, Jones, Bowman and who? Boyer? You think Boyer's out?
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. I think Amarola's out.
Yeah.
I don't think he's on a strong. I haven't seen a lot out of him on the road courses. I'm not sure, but we'll see. It's you got to keep your nose clean now. Those guys can't afford to get mixed up with anybody.
Yeah,
and they've got to qualify well, so they've got to get into qualifying trim and run their cars, which I don't know if the Roval's an impound race or not. I don't know that. But if it is, you've got to go into qualifying trim because you've got to qualify your car fast. You got to get up front in a road course. If you linger back in the middle of the pack, you're doomed.
Yeah.
You're doomed for bad things to happen. So, and I think guys like from Larson on up, Elliott and Logano, those guys just like, you know what? If I finish 10th, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay out of trouble. That's all I'm going to do. If my car's fast enough, I can run up front and I can lead, fine. If not, I'm just going to keep my nose clean, stay out of everybody's way. So, but anyway, on to the Roval. Interesting news. Before we get into the Roval and talk about it and the uniqueness of that track, I read today where Joseph Newgarden, who just was recently crowned the IndyCar champion, up in where did they race? Not Elkhart Lake, Laguna Seca.
Yeah.
Up in Carmel. Yeah, up in the Carmel, California area, is going to test an IndyCar on the Roval and see if the IndyCars can handle the Roval or not. I don't know. There's a lot of speed in those IndyCars, and that's a flat track pretty much, and a lot of speed coming out of that corner down the straightaway and getting back into it. So, but he's going to go out prior to the race this weekend and test an IndyCar and see what goes on. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think it'd be unique to have an IndyCar race there. It's a classic track. It's a classic facility, and see what happens. All right, the Roval. Is this a road course or is this an oval? It's the Roval.
Yeah, it's or more like an infield road course. It's one of those kind of things, like Daytona. Daytona has an infield road course they use for the Rolex 24 in January. So, looking at Charlotte, in terms of who I think can win this race, the Gibbs cars, they've pretty much been the dominant cars. I think one driver that could play spoiler to this race is Jimmy Johnson, because he almost won this race a year ago until he pretty much sent his car spinning and collecting Truex as well. Let's see. So, yeah, I think Johnson could play spoiler in this race.
Yeah, the 9 cars run well. The 9 cars had 2 wins on road courses already.
Yeah, Elliott's probably one to look out for as well.
Yeah, he's a dark horse. I mean, I just don't think Hendrick's performing well enough right now. But certainly, he's got back-to-back wins. We're at Watkins Glen, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got back-to-back wins on a course. Well, it's much more. It's a different course because the Roval's kind of flat, whereas Watkins Glen is a hilly course, up and down. But still, they both present their challenges. But he runs well on the road courses, and speed is not necessarily the most important factor on those tracks. It's the handling of the car and being able to maneuver it around the corners and get through the chicanes and the S's and around the hairpin turns and things like that. And the 9 cars demonstrated it can do that. Logano's always strong. Hamlin runs well on the road courses. Kozlowski runs well. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, there's going to be 2 battles going on. Somebody else needs to get a win. Although, I really now I think it's a point of just, like I said, from Larson on up, it's just like keep your nose clean. Just don't get in anybody's way.
Yeah.
Keep everybody. You advance because basically, winning this race right now for the top 7 cars means nothing at this point in time now because. Truex has already won 2, other than playoff points, because you do get playoff points. So that makes a little bit of a difference for it. So interesting to tell.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
And then you're going to have the desperation of the guys in the back, Jones, Bush, Boyer, Bowman, Byron, Amarola, Blaney, and Newman. Those guys are going to be, they're going to be duking it out. Because every time they pass somebody, it's a point, and that 1 point makes the difference. So that'll be the more fun thing to watch, probably, really, than who's winning the race at this point in time. So as long as the other guys qualify well and stay up front and clear their pit stops good, they'll be fine. But these back 6 or 7 guys, or 8 guys, whatever it is, are going to be duking it out big time, and that's where the action's going to be.
Yeah, if you remember last year, Kyle Larson had limped his wrecked car past Jeffrey Earnhardt to get that 1 point to advance him into the next round.
Right, yeah. And that's what it's going to come down to, and that's why it's fun to do it at a track that's kind of an unknown commodity like the Roval, where really it's only the second race they've run there, so they don't have a lot of history on this track. They don't really know how to run it right yet. They're figuring it all out. I mean, it's not like going to Talladega or Daytona or, Richmond or Darlington or anywhere where they've run for many years. They've got books of notes. Here they don't have much. So you're still experimenting all the way around the track. I did notice, I did see where Richard Childress is going to run Dale Earnhardt's last winning race car.
Yeah.
To pace the race at Talladega coming up. How cool is that?
I think it's really cool. It would have been cool if he had waited a year later because it'd be 20 years since then, but still, I think it's a really special moment. I think it's something that, a lot of fans are going to enjoy, especially the older fans who, like you, who grew up watching a guy like Dale Earnhardt race. And I
thanks. You're saying I'm old. You're saying I'm old.
You know what I mean. We're both from different eras here.
There you go.
When the chase came in, and I think it's a special moment, and it kind of reminded me of a couple of years ago. I think that one of Dale Earnhardt's older cars, like the number 2 car that he drove, I think Dale Jr. took it around, like it was given to him. I think
the Wrangler car, the blue and yellow Wrangler car.
Yeah, in his last race there. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that 3 car pace the field. That'd be pretty cool.
Agreed. I think that's going to be a very special moment, and I think I'm sure there'll be a tear in my eye, when that car's out there pacing and leading, because Dale would be probably pushing 70 now. Yeah, he'd be pretty. He was 49 when he passed in 2001.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd be 68, 69 years old, probably still racing. Knowing that idiot, he'd probably still be racing. So, but it was a tragic loss. But what a great tribute, and what a great track to do it at. Talladega. Yeah. So, all right. Anything else we got to cover before we wrap this puppy up today and get ready to watch the race?
Let's see here. I don't think I really have anything else. I think we've pretty much caught up on everything that pretty much needed to be caught up on.
Do you have any inclination of any other silly season moves that are going to be made?
I haven't really seen anything else, but I'm pretty certain next week we'll have something to talk about. Oh, yeah. If you want to make your picks real quick for the Roval, and then we can go from there.
All right. Let me get my paper out and write them down because I'm 60 and I have Alzheimer's, I think. I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Chase as a dark horse.
All right.
That's my picks. I'm going the 11 car.
All right. I'm going to go a little bit of a different path. I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski and my sleeper, Jimmy Johnson. I think he could play spoiler.
And
I think Jimmy Johnson could play a spoiler in all this.
Yeah, and then last week I bombed. I had Hamlin winning last week, Kyle Busch, Harvick, and Elliott as dark horses, and none of them did anything. It was all the Martin Truex show. So, and Truex, like I said, he's on a hot streak right now. So I just hope he doesn't just blow everything out right now, and then that's the end of it. And then, all of a sudden it's a fickle sport. You think you got it nailed, and you get your car running great, you win 2 races, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell happened to me?
Exactly.
I want this thing moved. So, but I'm going to go with Hamlin in this race. I just think that I think this is Hamlin's year. I think somehow he's going to eke this thing out, and he's going to get it done, and I hope he does. He's earned it. He's more than earned it. So, we'll see what happens. I think that Kyle Busch is kind of gotten his head stuck somewhere where he doesn't want it to be right now. He's a little frustrated with things. He's probably watching the Racing Wives show with his wife, which is the most pathetic thing on television there is. And asked me, why am I watching it? Because I get to see the houses they live in. God, these guys live in beautiful houses. Holy cow, they make some money. So, anyway, my wife likes it. She sees the fashion in it. Irregardless. All right. Let's get it out of here. We'll be back next week on Tuesday to cover the Roval, and we'll eliminate 4 drivers, be down to the final 12, and we'll reset and retool. So,
exactly.
Alex, get us out of here.
All righty. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the NASCAR show on the Grueling Truth, where Legends Speak. For Steve Risley and myself, Alex Gray. We'll see you next time.